Camera rolling. Action cam.
I don't know why I decided I wanted to do an Andy Kaufman opening, but that's just where my brain went. When it comes to Xbox One and PS4, one area they've really heavily differed in is the approach to Pro controllers. Microsoft with the Xbox One has had their own official Elite controller, and the only real competition to that has been Scuf's alternative designs, where the real debate there is whether you want to craft something specifically for you or buy a good one-size-fits-all controller. On PlayStation, on the other hand, they've licensed out a lot of different controllers. There have been a ton of different Pro controller designs with their own strengths and weaknesses, and I think we've actually now finally hit the point of having one true Pro controller that stands as like the one to get. And that's the new Scuf Vantage. Now, this is something we did cover back at E3 and kind of went over all the different functions and stuff. We're still going to overview that, but the real focus I want to take here is what this does differently from past Scuf controllers, and then what really sets it apart from other PS4 designs. First, let's just do a brief overview of all the functions that are still in this guy that are kind of standard across a lot of Scuf controllers.
Brief overview of all the functions that are still in this guy that are kind of standard across a lot of Scuf controllers.
You have, of course, the 4 back paddle buttons, which give you additional controller options. You can remap front-facing buttons or shoulder buttons to this, or the touchpad as well. You have a better grip design, which is this kind of rubber feeling, which is more comfortable. It's better if your hands start to get a little sweaty, and it just gives a little bit of give if you're gripping tightly. And then there's, of course, all the different little modifiable bits of the controller. You can add a circle pad attachment to the front of the D-pad, different stick designs, whether you want a domed or concaved head, or if you want a taller one, and extendable triggers, along with having the ability to modify how quickly those triggers stop and what kind of tension you have when you're hitting them. Now, once again, these are all things that Scuf has done before in past controllers, but there is a lot here going on that's new, different, and in all honesty, just flat out better.
4 main things that I want to talk about as far as how this controller has improved over past Scuf designs.
There's basically 4 main things I want to talk about as far as how this controller has improved over past Scuf designs, and the first of which is the fact that this is actually a brand new, built from the ground up controller. See, past Scuf controllers like the Scuf Infinite and the Impact are controllers that were basically heavily modified DualShock 4s. They use the same basic button layout, but they exchanged things like adding the paddles, giving a better grip, so on and so forth. And while they were solid controllers, honestly, there was always this kind of Frankenstein effect to them visually that I didn't find that appealing, the Infinite especially. The Impact improved on this a lot by adding a different shell design, which also improved the grip and added extra paddles. But in the Vantage's case, it's a whole new, brand new controller. It's not modified anything, and it has a grip design and layout that is much more familiar to an Xbox One controller, which personally I do find a lot more comfortable. It's not the exact same, but honestly I find its grip even better. Next to the fact this controller is offered in both a wired and wireless/wired model. Now, when I say wireless/wired, I want to clarify something. I don't mean this is a wireless controller that you can just plug in if you want to charge it. No, this is a controller that gives you the ability to play both wirelessly via Bluetooth, or you can switch over to using a cable attachment for communication instead, which is going to give you that reduced lag time, which is something I really appreciate, because a big problem I've had with a lot of Pro controllers is the fact that you buy them and they give you that awesome response time when wired, but sometimes you just want to relax and use a controller wirelessly. And yeah, you can just use regular DualShock 4 for that, but if you're going to pay good money for an awesome controller, why do you want to not use that? This gives you the benefit of both worlds by being able to use it wirelessly or wired when it's time to compete. Now, something that's really handy about this too is actually that Scuf has a different approach now to how they're kind of marketing these controllers as well. Before, you'd have to buy each controller, customizing each individual area, and spend more and more money. With the Vantage, they're doing the option where you can just buy the standard wired or standard wireless at a flat price, and you can also even go to GameStop and just buy it in store there in that design. And then you can buy separate upgrade packs on their own, or if you order through the website, you can spend a flat $30 more to customize it however you want, whether that's using a different color faceplate, different color sticks, different stick designs, so on and so forth. And that leads to the other thing I really love about this guy, the ease of customization. Now, past Scuf controllers, you could customize stuff when you ordered it, and there was some stuff you could do after you've already received it, but a lot of those were heavily reliant on using different tools. If you wanted to remap buttons, you had to use a little magnetic key. If you wanted to adjust how quickly these stop, you had to use a little tool to turn it. This time around, they've removed almost all tools. There's only one you have to worry about, which we'll get to in a second, but everything you can do here is super easy. If you want to change the faceplate, you can just lift it off with your hand and put it back on, no problem. If you want to be able to change the trigger stops, it's just something you can turn with your hand. If you want to remap buttons, it's just a toggle on the bottom of the controller. All super simplified. The only one that still needs a tool is if you want to be able to change the tension of the triggers, in which case you have to lift these off and use a little key attachment. Honestly though, as far as customization options go, that's probably one you're going to do when you first receive it, and you're done. Past that, everything else you can do with your hands super easily. Now, fourth, what I want to talk about is all the extra functions this controller has versus past Scuf designs, but there's actually quite a few. First off, one of the big ones is the addition of a 5th and 6th programmable button. In past controllers, they use the 4 back paddles, but this one also adds what they're calling SAX buttons. These little buttons on the side here, which you can remove if you don't want to use them, but they're really easy to access. The idea is that when you're holding the controller like this and you want to hit them, you just extend this finger right here. Really easy to access, and just like the back paddles, you can customize it to do any of the face buttons, shoulders, or touchpad. Another thing that's awesome is that with this controller, you can actually remove the rumble motors yourself. That is something you could order before, but you couldn't change it on your own later. With this, you just easily take off the faceplate, remove the motors, bam. You either have a lighter controller if you want it that way, or if you don't like rumble features, you can get rid of it or put it back in when you want it. Another big addition to this controller is this area right here known as the slide bar. Now, this is something that can only be used in wired mode, but when you're in wired mode, you can use it as an easy form of audio controls. For instance, you can just simply tap it if you want to mute your mic, or you can slide across to increase or decrease volume. And then one other kind of more minor change, but one that makes a huge difference once you start using this controller a lot, is the addition of anti-friction rings. On the inside of all these controllers where the sticks go, there's a little kind of ring here that adds extra smoothness. It doesn't feel like you're rubbing against anything at all. One problem I've had with a lot of other kind of off-brand PS4 controllers, or just any controller at all, is you get that extra resistance and friction, and it's kind of uncomfortable, especially if you have to spin the stick a lot. With this, it feels like nothing at all. Cut to Flanders.
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all.
So, when comparing it to past Scuf controllers, it's pretty safe to say that this is by far the best one. Unless you really, really love the traditional PlayStation button layout, this is nothing but improvements. But how does it compare to other PlayStation Pro controller options?
How does it compare to other PlayStation controller options?
Now, when it comes to Pro controller options on the PS4, there's basically two main options aside from past Scuf controllers, and those are the Nikon Revolution and the Razor Raiju. And before, the big strength that Scuf controllers had over them was the customization, being able to change out the different sticks, getting the extended triggers, using the control pad, so on and so forth. But on the other hand, with both the Raiju and Revolution, I found you had a better grip design and the benefits of a wired connection, but those aren't really unique anymore in this case. The Vantage is giving you, in my opinion, the best grip out of the three now, and once again, if you get the wireless model, you can switch between wireless or wired, giving you the best of both worlds. Now, that being said, there are still some unique benefits the other controllers have to offer. For instance, the Nikon Revolution does allow you to adjust stick sensitivity, which is really handy, although you do have to connect to a PC to use that functionality. And with the Raiju, you get those mechanical buttons, which are really neat, but when it comes to kind of requirements for a good Pro controller, it's not super high on the list. It's kind of a nifty function that not a lot of other companies have messed around with. Putting this all together, you know, the Revolution and Raiju are still both great controllers, but in the past where I would have said, oh, the Raiju does this, the Revolution is this, Scuf has this, pick the one that suits you best, honestly, with all the changes the Vantage now has, I'd have to say that objectively, it's the clear winner.